And now, your daily dose of debate, breaking news, and uncensored views. This is the Michael Medved Show.
And another great day in this greatest nation on God's green earth, though not such a great day for the ongoing negotiations to try to get a ceasefire going in Ukraine. There's a report from The Sun under the headline, Frothing with Rage. And then underneath that, they say that Russia threatens to kill Zelensky and then to parade his body after stirring up fury over a denied Ukrainian plot to blitz Putin. President Trump seethed after hearing of the alleged assassination attempt from the Russian tyrant. All right, when you have a little news item like this that is filled with words like seethe and frothing with rage, and it probably is not a sign that the negotiations are going exactly as you would like them to go. The much better situation involves Netanyahu and his meetings with Trump, where the Wall Street Journal has a report that the meetings that showed what they call a united front. Mr. Trump, Netanyahu united front. The president backs Israel on key points on Iran and Hamas. That's an indication that things are going much better than they are regarding Ukraine. The Wall Street Journal editorial page says that much of the media seem to want a split between President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. This was all the talk until they joined to strike Iran's nuclear program in June. And lately we hear all that talk again. But as the two met yesterday at Mar-a-Lago, their sixth meeting of 2025, no such split was in evidence. Okay, I think that can be said to be good news. There is on another front of potential war. CNN is reporting that the CIA carried out a drone strike earlier this month. That would be in December, obviously, on a port facility along Venezuela's coast, so sources told CNN, marking the first known U.S. attack on a target inside the nation of Venezuela. Analysts say it could signal a major escalation of Trump's military campaign in the region and further inflame tensions with Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, who the U.S. has been pressing to step down. There, by the way, is strong support for Trump's policy of going after Maduro and forcing him to step down from a former ambassador to Venezuela, writing in the New York Times, who thinks that Maduro is a threat, not just to the United States, but to the whole world, and, of course, is a criminal drug dealer and somebody who needs to be removed. The question is, how do you do it? Separately, the U.S. military yesterday struck another alleged drug boat in the eastern Pacific Ocean, killing 2 more people. At least 107 people have died in strikes on suspected drug boats as part of an operation the Trump administration has said is aimed at curbing narcotics trafficking. But the pro-Trump former ambassador to Venezuela, who, by the way, was an ambassador under the first Trump administration, says that, no, it's not just curbing narcotics trafficking. It's the need to get rid of all of the predations and the pro-Cuban and anti-American emphases and programs that have been part of Maduro's rule. It's not a pleasant situation and not an optimistic situation. CNN is reporting President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met in Florida yesterday, but announced no new progress on the next phase of the Gaza peace plan. The second phase of the deal includes Hamas's disarmament, the beginning of reconstruction in Gaza, and the establishment of post-war governance. All of that difficult and necessary. Speaking to reporters after the meeting, President Trump said Hamas will be given a very short period of time to disarm, warning that if it does not, other countries backing the ceasefire will go and wipe them out. Also on Monday, Netanyahu announced Trump will receive the Israel Prize for Peace, marking the first time the country's highest civilian excellence honor will be awarded to a non-citizen of Israel. Okay, it's not the Nobel Prize for Peace, but in addition to winning the FIFA award, the International Soccer Award, President Trump now has the Israel Prize for Peace, which, by the way, reflects one of his very positive achievements, which is inspiring confidence and trust on the part of the Israeli public. One thing I can tell you is that President Trump is decidedly and dramatically more popular in Israel than he is with citizens of the United States who are actually going to be voting on the midterm elections coming up in this new year that is just about be upon us. There's a sense about the new year, and when you look back at the year that has just passed, there is a piece by Karl Rove that is about the good, the bad, and the ugly. We will get to that on the Michael Medved Show, the good, the bad, and the ugly of 2025. And Karl Rove writes that if you listed the worst years in American history, 2025 wouldn't be near the top. Our economy is growing better than most of the world. Total non-farm employment is up slightly year over year. Inflation is under 3%. The southern border is secured. U.S. murders are on a pace for the biggest yearly drop on record. Now, you can check that out. That's true. And that's amazingly good news. America isn't involved in any major wars. The war in Gaza has ground to a halt. Hamas, Hezbollah, and other Iranian-backed, terror groups are significantly weakened. The U.S. and Israel destroyed key Iranian nuclear facilities. Maybe not obliterated them, but largely destroyed them and set them back. And even though American dithered over critical aid, beleaguered Ukraine hangs on as Russia's invasion approaches its 4th anniversary. All of that is good news. So the question is, why does Karl Rove say, why will anyone say that the mood in the country is so very negative? Does it all have to do with affordability? We will get to that question and much more coming up on a busy day here on the Michael Medved Show. What's the best way to figure out where we're going in the new year? Probably the best way to do that is to take a look at where we have just traveled during this year that is now nearly over. And Karl Rove did an excellent piece in the Wall Street Journal that takes a look at why, despite the fact that we look at various horrors and weirdnesses and destructive and frustrating aspects of 2025, it really wasn't such a terrible year. He writes that this year had its share of bizarre developments. No American president has ever ruled the news cycle like Donald Trump. He's omnipresent, meaning you can't get away from him. He dominates our consciousness and our surroundings and the news cycles year after year. And even here, day after day. And he's omnipresent, completely dominating coverage, constantly in front of the cameras, and inundating us with round-the-clock truth social posts. His pace is unrelenting. He throws at reporters so much fluff, personal asides, fulminations about adversaries, real and imagined, commentary on culture, and self-congratulation, like putting his name on the Kennedy Center building in a blitz, really, because it was as fast as lightning, and that new name is up there. It's no longer the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. It is the Donald J. Trump and Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. He's hit us around the clock with Trump social posts. His pace is unrelenting. He throws at reporters so much fluff, personal asides, etc., that the press and public often ignore more important things. But those important things are still in function, and they involve, Karl Rove says, some positive developments here near the year end. For instance, he talks about the organization within Trump's government and the achievements of Susie Wiles as the White House chief of staff. Here was Karl Rove talking on air a little bit about the substance that he put down in his column about the good, the bad, and the ugly of 2025. Here's Karl Rove, clip 19.
There's a clear professionalization of the West Wing. Remember all the Reince Priebus versus Steve Bannon, and then we had the 11 days of the Mooch as the communications director. Susie Wiles has brought in adult supervision of the West Wing, and it's had an impact. Take a look at it. Now, it's not only the border. We have the largest reduction in the federal workforce in 20 some odd years. We have the director of the Office of Management and Budget ruthlessly expanding the president's power, eviscerating agencies, taking over agencies, downsizing, reorganizing, and the administration is single focused on, getting not simply control of the border, but getting a lot of illegal immigrants out of the country. They say criminal illegals, but it's been spilled over into non-criminal illegals, people who came here, violated the law in that sense, but have kept their nose clean since. The amount of activity and the presence of the president in the public mind is something like we've never seen before. I mean, he has dominated the news cycle virtually every day for his own good or for his own ill, but it has kept us, it's almost got us worn out. I'm not certain we can stand as a country 3 more years of announcements of Trump battleships and Trump child accounts and Trump Kennedy Center and so forth. But give him his credit. The man has been energetic.
Energetic, certainly, and 79 years old. But Karl Rove also talked about what probably is Trump's most notable achievement so far. And that achievement is not the big, beautiful bill. The achievement is actually a reduction of illegal entries into the United States by immigrants who haven't done the proper paperwork. The border is, again, it is not perfect. It's not impenetrable. Trump obviously exaggerates the situation and the achievement by saying there is no more illegal immigration. No one can doubt that the level of illegal immigration has been dramatically reduced. And here's Karl Rove on that achievement, clip 18.
Well, one of the big highlights is the southern border's been secured. He was right. We didn't need to elect to pass a new law. All we had to do was elect a new president. He got the 2017 tax cuts renewed. There was a lot of stuff added to it that I'm not so enthusiastic about, but the third quarter GDP number that we got earlier this week is a sign that it's beginning to kick in, and we should have a robust year of growth ahead of us. And he took on DEI and began to concentrated effort to wipe it out in the federal government. But there is a lot to be done, and it starts with, interestingly enough, a tonal issue, in my opinion. He needs to lower the expectations and over deliver. Under promise and over deliver ought to be the goal of the next year. Americans are not feeling that the economy is great, and for him to stand up and say, as he did first in Pennsylvania, then in North Carolina, that everything is great, it just doesn't resonate with the felt experience of ordinary American families.
That is actually part of the need to understand what is happening in this country, is to understand what it is about the economy that leads Americans in overwhelming percentages to believe that whatever you say about Trump's achievements, the situation that people feel about their personal economic status, which helps to determine the way they are going to vote in the year ahead, that remains very skeptical. Karl Rove concludes his column by saying, other happenings signal significant changes may be on the horizon. MAGA is engaged in internecine warfare with different people who claim to represent and lead the movement, viciously attacking one another. Populists and traditional conservatives are increasingly at odds over important policy issues. Meanwhile, where do we go to try to reduce some of the polarization? Will they there on the Medved Show? And on the Michael Medved Show, finishing up the consideration of the year just passed by Karl Rove, and what he sees for the year ahead. One of the things that he does is he makes predictions every year. He hasn't done that yet, but including who's going to win the Academy Award for Best Picture, who's going to win the Super Bowl. And the Super Bowl, of course, because there are so many teams that are not the Kansas City Chiefs who are real possibilities for the Super Bowl, including the Seattle Seahawks. Okay, that's an interesting series of predictions yet to come. But what Rove is talking about is the general mood of the country and the state of our politics. And he writes that aside from the divisions in the conservative ranks, the Democratic Party has its own internal battles, pitching socialists against moderates and liberals. These divisions are likely to intensify as 2028 approaches. And what Rove talks about concerning Trump and where the Trump administration falls short is actually something that they could fix. And how do they fix it? Well, here's what Rove had to say on Fox News about some of the deficiencies of the Trump administration so far. This is clip 20.
Well, I think they've not talked about the things that they've done. I mean, the president has never yet visited the border to celebrate with Democratic local elected officials, sheriffs and county judges and so forth, the success along the border in Texas and Arizona and New Mexico. Going forward, they need to be thinking about talking about what they're doing and explaining it to the American people. Don't herald its success. Don't say we've solved the problem. Say we're solving the problem and explain how you're going about doing it. And a lot more of that needs to be done in order to put the Republicans in a better position for the midterms. Second term midterms are never happy moments for the president, except in 1998 for Bill Clinton when the Republicans overplayed their hand, and in the first term for George W. Bush. But those have been the rare moments in which a midterm election has worked to the advantage of the party in power. The president will end this year with the lowest approval rating in modern times for a president in his first year, the first year after his inauguration. And he's got to get those numbers up, and I'm convinced that a large part of it is going to be patiently explaining what it is that he's done and explaining what it is that he wants to do, particularly with regard to health care, in a way that the American people can get their hand around it. But again, under promise and over deliver. Don't tell people the problem's already solved when they don't think it has been.
He goes on and concludes in his column, which is along the same themes, that the prevailing theme is the public's pervasive distrust of virtually every institution in American life. There's almost no authority figure, no august body in our society in which most people have confidence. That's dangerous for the country. In many ways, writes Karl Rove, our nation's public life seems overwhelming. Mutual contempt defines much of our politics. We're confused and exhausted. We have to get our act together. How the coming year plays out will have continuous, long-lasting consequences. We all have work to do. Rebuilding trust and restoring civility, because we're Americans. I'm betting we'll get it done, and we always have. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Now get to it. I'm not sure how he envisions ordinary people, normal, busy Americans who are trying to pay the bills and put away money for sending my kids to college or to school or helping them in some way, keeping relationships together. I mean, how do people who have a lot on their plate personally actually do something to improve our communication and our sense of community, which Karl Rove is definitely right. It's something that is needed. It's not just a goal, but it should be a goal of every American as we lead our lives and as we conduct our conversations. And yes, that includes people who are part of our media. And where there is indications that things are trying to look more balanced at CBS under the leadership of Barry Weiss, and there's even rumors and reports, they're more than rumors, they're testimony that the Washington Post is trying to move more to the center. So we will see about all of that, and there could be significant changes in the works. And there might also be, a little bit of an improvement in President Trump and the narcissism and egocentrism and the domination that Karl Rove was talking about of our consciousness and our media by this one individual who is controversial. And there is this item of news. A growing number of artists are canceling performances at the Kennedy Center and you'll notice that they call it the Kennedy Center here, not the Trump and Kennedy Center, after its board of trustees voted to add President Trump's name to the building. Earlier this month, the board approved renaming the venue from the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts to the Donald J. Trump and John F. Kennedy Memorial Center for the Performing Arts. In response, several performers have called off their shows. The longtime host of the Kennedy Center's annual Christmas Eve jazz performance canceled the gig, and a dance company called off 2 April performances, among others. The center's president, Richard Grenell, who was a longtime insider and Trump loyalist, dismissed the cancellations as, quote, a form of derangement syndrome in a post to X yesterday. Okay, the idea here is that it is not usual to name bridges or airports or performing arts centers or universities or anything over people who are alive. And you'll notice the Kennedy Center is called the John F. Kennedy Memorial Center for the Performing Arts. And really, you get a memorial when you're no longer here to make the case for yourself. And President Trump is definitely here to make the case for himself. So what about the case for his meeting yesterday with Prime Minister Netanyahu? And the idea that it went so well is, again, a reflection of the fact that Trump is so popular in Israel. He certainly is more popular in Israel than Netanyahu, who remains a very divisive figure even in his home country. So what's the good news about the agreements that the president and the prime minister apparently reached yesterday? We'll get to that and much more here on the Medved Show. In a response, an editorial response to the meeting yesterday by President Trump and the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Wall Street Journal headline says the Trump-Netanyahu United Front, and the second subheading is even more encouraging. It says the president backs Israel on key points on Iran and Hamas. And those are existential issues for people living in Israel. And they say, I think rightly in the editorial here in the Wall Street Journal, they say that there is a desire on the part of much of the media to report some kind of split between Netanyahu and Trump, because that kind of division is always dramatic and newsworthy, and people pay attention to it. They report, and I think they're right about this, as the two met Monday at Mar-a-Lago, their sixth meeting of 2025, no such split was in evidence. Asked about the relationship, Mr. Trump answered with common sense, I don't think it can be better. We just won a big war together. I think what he has in mind is the strike against Iran that went on for several days. Israel's Mr. Netanyahu was effusive in turn, but more important was their convergence on key policy questions, beginning with Iran. The Iranian regime has been racing to rebuild its ballistic missile capacity, which Israel named an existential threat at the outset of the 12-day war in June. If Iran accumulates enough missiles, it could overwhelm the air defenses of Israel and other U.S. allies, even without a nuclear weapon. Mr. Trump focused on the nuclear program, which was presumed to be less gung-ho about addressing the conventional missile threat. Yet when asked whether he'd support another Israeli attack on Iran, Mr. Trump was clear. If they continue with the missiles, yes. The nuclear, fast. One will be, yes, absolutely, and the other will be, we'll do it immediately. These are very reassuring words. A united front on Iran is the best way to pressure the regime to come to a deal limiting its nuclear and missile program so Israel doesn't have to strike again. But if Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is trying to build up again, Mr. Trump said, quote, we're going to have to knock them down. We'll knock the hell out of them. Right now, they're getting the hell knocked out of them, the Iranian leadership, because of mass demonstrations, because of economics, and in particular, inflation. Sound familiar? No, these are huge demonstrations which could threaten the future of that evil regime. Press reports say public protests have broken out in cities over the currency plunge and inflation. On Gaza, Mr. Trump did well to signal his priorities. Asked when his peace plan would advance to its second stage with new governance, security, and reconstruction, he replied, as quickly as we can, but there has to be disarmament. We have to disarm Hamas. Amen to that. He later added, they're going to be given a very short period of time to disarm. When a reporter suggested that Israel was holding up the next plan, Mr. Trump said no. They've lived up to the plan, unlike Hamas, said President Trump. The upshot isn't to junk the peace plan, but to pressure Hamas to adhere to it, writes the Wall Street Journal. That means to Israeli freedom of action, short of war, of the kind it practices from time to time in the West Bank, to prevent Hamas from comfortably reconstituting its forces. And they conclude with these words, that it's clear from media leaks that some of Mr. Trump's advisors would like him to restrain Israel across all fronts. But the Israeli public, and not merely Mr. Netanyahu's government, has taken from the war of October 7th, 2023, one lesson above all others. It can never again allow jihadists to reign and build up military power with impunity on its borders. That's a policy worthy of U.S. support, says the Wall Street Journal. There was one aspect of the meeting yesterday that did not go so well for President Trump. The headline in Mediaite, Trump drops all-time whopper about Israeli hostages. None were released in the Biden administration, he says. And the story is telling. President Donald Trump falsely took credit for all Israeli hostages being released, even though more than 100 were freed during the presidency of Joe Biden. During the October 7, 2023 attacks, Hamas launched an attack from Gaza and killed 1,200 Israelis and abducted 255 others. More than 160 hostages returned to Israel alive, as well as the remains of those who died in captivity, with one exception. Trump met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Monday and took questions from reporters, including one about the president's plans for Gaza, which in February he vowed to turn into a Riviera. Trump dodged the question, stating, "We have about 5 major subjects that we're discussing, and Gaza will be one of those subjects." Asked if the remains of the last hostage will be returned, the president sidestepped the question and bragged about securing the release of all hostages. Every hostage just about that's been released was released because of me. Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, my whole team, Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, Trump replied. They all released because of us. None were released in the Biden administration. None. Zero. They were all released because of us. He later added, out of all these people, and I'm not just talking about the final 20, look at all of the people. Trump then asked Netanyahu for the total number of hostages. 255. Netanyahu immediately replied. Think of that, Trump responded. And we got them all. Netanyahu didn't say anything. He knows that more than 100 hostages were released under Biden. During their joint press conference, Trump praised Netanyahu and reports that he has grown frustrated with his Israeli counterpart don't appear to be holding true. I don't think it can be better, Trump said of their relationships. We just want a big war together. Previously, Axios reported that members of the Trump administration believed that Netanyahu was slow-walking the peace process and the prime minister might well resume the war with Hamas. After that, their appearance, CNN's Brianna Keilar, noted that more than 100 hostages had been released in 2023 during Biden's administration. This is just very easily, verifiably false, Keilar said of Trump's claim that he was the only one, and he and members of his staff, who deserve credit for the release of Israeli hostages. Coming up on the Medved Show, we'll be talking about new and somewhat startling data about the safest and least safe cities in America when it comes to crime. Nationwide, as Karl Rove had pointed out and we'd mentioned before, we actually are doing remarkably well in terms of reducing murder rates. And could some of that have to do with President Trump's dispatching of federal forces to cities across the country? We will get to that and to more about a strange new front on what has been called the MAGA Civil War. And the idea of reparations payments for white males, that idea we'll also talk about in this greatest nation on God's green earth.